All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Friday Forum. I am Christina Reagan. I'm the current president of the IIDA Ohio Kentucky Chapter. The presentation that we are providing today is IDCEC certified, so make sure that you stick around until the very end to scan the IDCEC QR code and receive your credits. We are so fortunate to have amazing chapter benefactors that support our efforts and fun programs like today's Friday Forum. Thank you to all of these benefactors for all that you do for us. We truly could not do what we do without all of you. Thank you for all of these benefactors. Here's a list of a few of our upcoming programs that we have going on throughout our chapter. Make sure that you register for these activities so you don't miss out on what is happening in your city center. Today, we are genuinely excited to have with us Ashley Paré, a leadership and negotiation coach and the CEO and founder of Own Your Worth. She helps clients gain recognition for their impact at work, articulate their value, and earn more money. She's been featured in the New York Times, CNN Money, and Good Morning America, and more. She is a sought-after speaker, and you can check out her popular TEDx talk called Have Your Cake and Negotiate Too. Let's not waste any more time to get started on this exciting adventure with Ashley. Thank you, Ashley.
Hello, hello. Thank you. Thank you, Christina and Megan and everybody here today. Happy Friday. Hello, Victoria. Hi, Lisa. If you can join me with your video on, I would really love to see you. It's so nice for us to be able to connect, even if it is virtually. I have a little heater going by my feet because it's still so cold. Hi, hello, Bree and Chris. Hello, Chris. Sammy, nice to see you again. Let me share my screen here. If you haven't already, feel free to pop into the chat if you are part of a firm or a sole proprietor. If you're in commercial or residential, just let me know a little bit more about you because this is your time today and I want to make sure that you find value in our session. So let me share my slides and we can dive in. So who's excited to be here? Who is ready to own their worth and learn how to feel more confident, embracing the art of self-advocacy? Anybody? I am. Yay. All right. So let's do it. This is your safe space to get more comfortable, not only feeling more worthy and deserving of anything you desire, but really feeling more grounded and being able to articulate, advocate, and own your value because you all matter. And we don't learn how to self-advocate. Most of us actually learn the opposite as kids. So I'm really excited to be here with you. We're definitely going to be using the chat. So thank you so much for sharing. The sharing in the chat. I will be checking it out as we go along. And yay, sole proprietor commercial. So we have a mix of folks here. So I'm going to kick us off with a little bit of a story here as to what I'm doing here with you today. So years ago, I landed my dream job in New York City. And I can still remember showing up on Fifth Avenue from my first day of work, hitting that elevator button and going all the way to the 52nd floor of a Manhattan high-rise and walking into my new office with a whole entire beautiful view of Manhattan in front of me. I could see the Brooklyn Bridge. I could see the Statue of Liberty. And I remember just feeling and thinking like, this is it. I've made it. I am a leader in corporate HR, working in tech. This is what I've been working so hard for. And I had, all the things that I thought I should have. A bigger salary, a corner office, traveling the world, doing work that I was passionate about. And yet a couple of years later, fast forward, I'm finding myself burned out, overworked, feeling not good enough, always trying to give more and feeling like I wasn't making the impact that I wanted. And so I want to tell you today, as we start on this journey around self-advocacy, that if it's hard for you, if it feels uncomfortable for you, if maybe you've negotiated and failed, maybe you've never negotiated, maybe it's hard for you to have boundaries at work, like, it's okay. It is not your fault. And I fell for it too. I was in corporate human resources for tech, for consulting firms, briefly for pharma. I had the playbook. I had the playbook on what people were earning. I had access to salary data. I had the playbook on performance reviews and policies and programs. I had access to the C-suite. And I was a white woman with power and leadership at a young age in my career. And it was still very difficult for me to advocate for my needs, to hold boundaries. And so I learned the hard way. And I don't want you to have to learn the hard way. So my hard-earned lessons here are going to help you expand your career, help you grow, help you feel more confident. And what we're going to be diving into today is not only how to own your worth, but how to get more comfortable articulating your impact and how to lead with courage. Because you're showing up every day, whether it's your own business or for somebody else's business, and you're working with people. You are working with tight deadlines. You're working with a lot of things and other people that are out of your control, right? With the process, with systems, with the industry. So how do we show up in our power and not end up like I did, which was feeling unseen? I ended up, after a couple of years in this so-called dream job, feeling like I was literally sick. Anybody here been in a position that was so like misaligned for you that you ended up stressed, migraines, sick, like feeling really overworked and unseen? Just give me a thumbs up or put it in the chat if you've felt this at any point in your career. Even school sometimes can do this for us. Unseen is a perfect word. Absolutely. Yes. So I found myself feeling, unseen. And a couple years into this dream job, I get a phone call. Hello? I get actually on my desk phone. Thank you for the thumbs up, Sarah and Bree. And I was on the phone with a Facebook recruiter. A recruiter from Facebook was calling me, telling me about a new job in New York City, which paid me almost double what I was earning in my current role. And that was my wake-up call. The literal call from Facebook woke me up to remind me, wait a second, this firm, company, and person who does not know me is already willing to pay me way more. And here I am, hoping and wishing and working harder to be seen for my value. And that was it. I marched into my boss's office. I made an emotional ask for a raise. I got a very emotional response about not getting that raise. And that was the beginning and the end of my corporate HR career, because I realized then that, you know what? It wasn't my boss's fault. It wasn't my company's fault. It wasn't even the industry's fault. At the end of the day, it was my fault for accepting the status quo for so long, for not standing up for myself sooner. And so I want to remind you that yes, we are in a patriarchal system. Every industry, especially if it's a dominated either mostly female or mostly male, every industry has its unique challenges. But at the end of the day, we are leaders. And we, by leading ourselves first, can create our ideal lives and feel more confident and comfortable doing so. But it's a skill. It's a skill. And I didn't learn that skill growing up. I learned how to be the good girl. I learned how to say please and thank you. I learned not to rock the boat. Anybody else? Learn to get good grades and, voila, if you get good grades, you get, right, the reward. Yes, the team player, right? And that isn't how it is at the end of the day in business. And especially if you have your own team or your own organization, if you're a manager, if you're a sole proprietor, right? business is about people. And what we know from all of the research that's been done in the past, 30, 40, 50 years, but even more so recently, is there are still double standards. There are still barriers that we face to growing in our career, right? Men are typically judged based on their potential to lead or their potential to do great work, whereas women are judged based on our past performance, which leaves us having to prove ourselves and over advocate right before we are seen or before we get the promotion or the raise or the next opportunity. So whether you're just beginning your career or you're seasoned in your career, learning how to advocate for what it is you want next is so crucial for your success, for your sanity, for your health, for your well-being, for your family, right? How many people here, you can give me a thumbs up if you have a family, like, yes, children, but how many of you not only love what you do, I'm hoping, right, but want to be able to give back to your family, that want to be able to retire someday, right? And we can only do that if we take charge of our careers by putting ourselves back in the driver's seat and understanding the factors that we face that might be holding us back, the internal factors and the external factors. So let's start with the internal journey, because what held me back in my career, even though I had confidence, even though I negotiated my very first job offer outside of college, because honestly, I didn't know any better. I thought, I have bills, I have student loans, I have to find rent, money to pay rent. Like, I negotiated, and it got harder and harder for me the higher I went up the corporate ladder to self-advocate. Because why? It felt riskier. It felt like I had more to lose. I started to feel less confident because I started to people please more, right? And having been in HR, I had to walk this line. Maybe like you do too, right? Managing a project, it's like your client, your boss or the company, vendors, right? Things that are out of your control. And it's like, how do you please everyone, still get the job done, right? But come out feeling like, oh, I'm good at what I do and I made an impact today. So I am inviting you, before we dive into the how-to, it's really crucial because to own your worth and to know when you're not. The journey I have been on since leaving my corporate career has helped me create not only these frameworks that have saved my life, but have helped hundreds of clients, right, step into their leadership and remember like their why and their worth. But fear, it's a part of who we are. Does anybody know the two fears that we are born with? We are only born with two fears. Every other fear that we feel into our adult life is a learned fear. Okay, so rejection. So there's two fears that we're born with. And if any of you have spent any time around children, like, can you imagine what they're afraid of? What are the two fears? And you can just unmute yourself too if you want to guess. Being left alone, that's a good guess. Yes. Yeah. So our two fears that we're born with are fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. Fear of falling and a fear of loud noises. That's what activates our nervous system from birth, because we're wired. We are hardwired to feel fear for survival, folks. And what has happened in our modern society is that fear has become a status quo. Fear of being left alone, fear of being rejected, fear of being seen as needy, greedy, useless, lazy, name it, right? Fear that we will offend somebody, fear that we'll fail, fear that we're not good enough, fear that we're not smart enough, fear that we have to get more expertise, more schooling, more experience. We are inundated with shoulds from our society, from our family, from our upbringing, from our race, our gender, our background, our economic status. So my big claim to fame is not that I've climbed Mount Everest or written 12 New York Times bestsellers yet, but my big accomplishment is I survived my childhood. Yay! Yay, we made it. None of us come into adulthood without having some sort of self-limiting beliefs and fears that keep us playing small. And do you know when those fears show up? It's at work. It's when we're under pressure. It's when we're doing what we love, but other people have expectations, right? So the more that we can be aware of our unique fear and how it shows up for us, the more power you will have to not only be able to self-advocate and speak up for yourself in a way that helps you navigate your career from a place of power, but you'll just feel better. So the things that keep us feeling stuck, dissatisfied, annoyed at our bosses, right? I was not happy with my boss when he told me he was angry at me for asking for a raise, when I was the one who helped get so many people raises, especially when they were quitting or getting phone calls from other firms, right? But I'm grateful for that now because it led me on my path to do work that I love, to make my impact, to live my purpose. And that's important for you, right? If you're going to show up every day and give your power, your energy, your intention, your time, right, to a job or a career or an industry or a firm, you want to be seen. You want to feel like you're making a difference, that you do matter. And this isn't just about money, right? For me, I gave my power away. So these are the three barriers that I see from working with my clients, from private clients, huge workshops, from all of my work in corporate, right? These are the three biggest barriers that I see holding us back, that keep us, that just perpetuate this fear that I have to work harder because I'm not enough, right? And in my situation personally, I was giving my power away. I was doing the right thing, hoping I was going to be seen, because I was afraid of rejection. Because what was next? If I got a no from my boss, then what would I do? And maybe you deal with this on a day-to-day basis even more so. Like, oh, if I can't get this project done on time, then will my client not work with me anymore? Or what will happen here, right? So think about in your own situation, how this might show up for you, how you either give your power away by people pleasing, how you might have a fear of rejection or failure that is keeping you stuck. Or this is a big one. Who here has the fear tendency of being the lone lady or the lone ranger, where it's, I'll do this myself. I've got it. I'll take care of it. It's better, faster if I do it myself. And you're not asking for much support. Is that anybody's barrier? Victoria, yes? That one's coming up for you. Guilty, Lauren? Yeah. Right? This is a big one. That we think, right, we want to prove to ourselves and even others that if we do it on our own, especially at home, yes, if we do it on our own, it means what? That we're enough? That we're deserving of the money we're making or we ask for, right? Whereas nobody gets to the top alone. The more we can delegate, the more we'll be seen as a leader. The more we allow, the more we'll be trusted, right? And the more that we ground ourselves in our capabilities, the more we'll be willing to bring others up with us. So we're going to talk about the 3 antidotes to our fear today. Does anybody else have a story, a situation, a fear? What's held you back from feeling like your best self at work? Maybe you decided not to, I don't know, go for that promotion. Maybe you've decided to settle in a current job or an industry, in a firm. Maybe you're not sure how to respond to people when they don't understand what it is you do as an interior designer or an architect. So feel free to either unmute yourself or pop in the chat. Like for me, the fear that my boss would say no stopped me from looking at why I was afraid to change. So let me know what fears have stopped you in your life or in your career. Because with the self-awareness gives you power. So Sarah, you're the youngest on your team and you fear that they don't take you seriously enough. Yes. And so Sarah, thinking about that, right? What do you do to cope? Right? For me, it was overworking. I've heard, right, that maybe a sensitive spot for you in your industry, right, be that people, right, think they hear interior designer and they think somebody works with colors or picks paint, right? And doesn't understand the education, the background, the schooling, the education that and the project management skills that you bring to the table. For me in HR, I got called all kinds of things. Here comes the HR lady. Oh, personnel, like, oh, she's gonna fire you if you say a bad word at work, like all kinds of things. So knowing like what brings up sensitivity to you for you and then how you cope with it. For me, it was like trying to prove myself and overcorrect. Like, no, I'm cool. I can hang with you guys. Like, I'm not gonna fire you because your manager is supposed to fire you, not HR. So Jill, men can have dissenting opinions and it's respected, yes, and women with the same are considered a problem. Absolutely. There's that double standard, right? How do we self-advocate? And we're going to get to this. How do we self-advocate with confidence and be assertive and speak up, but not be seen as aggressive, right? Or too much. I'll just quiet down and not try to walk the boat as well. Yeah. So when I mentioned our fears that we're born with, right? Fear is hardwired in our bodies for survival. Just like, right, cave people, saw the lion coming, right? Our nervous system goes into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. Those are the 4 bodily systems that can become activated when we're scared. And because of modern society, we haven't built in repairing the fear. And so when I ask you, if you think about what's held you back, right? For me, I did a lot of fawning and fleeing. I wanted to run away. I would change jobs and think, oh, maybe it's this boss. But fawning means people pleasing, right? And the I don't want to rock the boat, so I just won't say anything. That's a fear-based response that we naturally cope with. So this is why I said it's not your fault, but you have options. You can choose to own your worth. You can build up these new skills and muscles to be aware that when you're in fear, when something outside of you is causing you to stay small or stay quiet, this is the approach and framework I'm going to walk you through today so you can become more willing to be uncomfortable. Because the more you practice this, the more your body becomes safe. So, yeah, imposter syndrome is a big one, not wanting to oversell and then undervalue or underdeliver your performance, right? So that fear of either failure or rejection. So maybe not raising your own standards, because what if you can't do it? Yeah, thinking the experience you have you won't get the job that you want. I'm going to talk through that too. Being told I'm too young. That was one of the big ones I got. People used to ask me, how old are you? I remember in a meeting, and how old are you again? After I like shared an idea. I'm like, that's not relevant. You need to slow down. You don't know enough about your field to be promoted. So frustrating. Yes. Victoria, I see you now. Yes, being the only woman in the room and not being looked to for answers. That is so frustrating, right? So frustrating. And knowing, like bringing awareness to these fears, these frustrations, right? You then can choose how you want to decide. You can then get to decide how you want to act or react. So I want you to, as we work through this framework today, I want you to think of one of these situations that you've just shared, right? Think of a real life example that's happened recently, or maybe it's from your past, but a situation you found yourself in where you let fear kind of dictate how you showed up. So think about something that maybe you want, a goal in your life, in your career, whether it's getting a new job, getting a promotion, maybe starting your own firm, maybe pivoting in your industry. So think of your goal and then think of, right, how fear shows up for you so we can work through this framework. And actually, now that we've talked about the fear, I just want to invite you for a second. Since we're on our computer so much, I want you to close your eyes with me just for a minute. Just close your eyes wherever you are, unless you're driving. Please don't close your eyes. So close your eyes and just breathe. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Maybe feel your body here for a moment. Feel your feet on the floor. Maybe you're sitting in a chair. And I invite you just to scan your body. As we've been talking about these scenarios and fear, and you're thinking about your own life and story and career, I want you to check in with your body. Scan from your head, your neck and your throat, down your shoulders, your chest, your stomach, down over your hips, noticing your legs and your knees and your calves, all the way down to your ankles and your feet. And I just invite you to notice what you're feeling in your body. Is this fear living somewhere in you? Is it stuck? Maybe it's in your throat. Maybe you can relax your belly. And just with your intention, folks, send some breath, some love, some softness to an area of your body that feels a little stuck. And I want to remind you that in this moment, using your breath, in the here and now, you are safe. You are safe. And you are worthy. Maybe rubbing your palms together a little bit to create some energy here. You can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and just slowly come back into your room, your space, wherever you are. And I want you to do a little finger dance, a hand dance, maybe stretch, move your body. Because so much of this lives in our body, and you can release it through movement and intention. So how are you feeling? How are you feeling now? Better? Alive? Any chills? Any like zings? So that's a tool for you. Yes, Victoria, I see you like, whoo. That is a tool for you that you can use at any moment during your day to bring you back to your center, to help you connect with your worth, your impact, and your courage. Diane, you were tense and now better. Yes. I tend to hold, right, my fear. Even this has been years and a lot of healing since. And even when telling my story, I can still sometimes feel it in my throat because I can be back in that moment. But reminding yourself that you're safe here gives you the opportunity to choose how you want to respond. That is where your power lives. Yes, this is about being real with yourself first, because we are the only people we can control. I hate to give you that bad news. We really can't control our children. We can't control our bosses, right? We can't control our clients or their shipments or the vendors or whoever we're working with, but we can be kinder to ourselves and then choose how we react to whatever's happening around us. This truly is where your power and your sense of self and your sense of leadership can show up. And this tool, combined with your skills, your expertise, your ability to learn, your ability to navigate hard situations, your ability to manage conflict, both of these together are going to allow you to be unstoppable at work. So Megan, you never realized how tight you are, yeah, until you breathe, right? Just, yeah, those shoulders, bring them down. Bring them down. Yes, let the tears come. Please let the tears come. That is like the best gift you can give yourself. Even if you have to cry at work, it's okay because you release it. I've cried in more negotiation meetings and self-advocacy discussions than I'd like to admit, but it's okay. It's okay. So how do we apply this framework to your life and your career? You have to start the work of what we're doing already, untangling your self-worth from your market worth. Who you are as a human being, you are inherently worthy. You do not have to do or change anything about who you are. You're worthy of being loved, of being seen, of being recognized. You matter. You have a unique ability to bring who you are into our world. That's a fact. Now you can start to do the homework of, well, what am I worth in the market? What do I bring to the table at work? How can I ask for some feedback to get answers that I don't know about? How can I leverage my network? How can I build on these relationships that I've built, this equity, this connection, this currency that I have through relationships in my world, my industry, my LinkedIn, right? Start to think about market worth being more about what you've put into your career and your life, and that you can pull equity from it by creating influence, by serving, by being great at what you do, and by getting that feedback, right? So this is putting you back in the driver's seat of knowing that, number one, you're deserving. And anytime you forget, you pause, you breathe, and you remind yourself, I am worthy. I belong here. And I can do hard things. I can manage the situation. I can figure it out. I can ask for help. Right? This is the work of owning your worth, which has literally changed my life and my clients' lives, right? This is where we can begin to really put a line in the sand today, folks, to say, you know what? I'm not going to settle for less than anymore. And you don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You don't have to quit your job. No, you don't have to really change anything except how you show up for yourself. So the second tool here in this framework is, how will you begin to articulate your value? It is really hard to self-advocate, folks, when you're afraid. Right? I was so annoyed at my boss. I was so frustrated with myself for not having stood up for myself for so long that by the time I got that phone call about a new job, it was too late. I made an emotional ask. I didn't prepare my business case. I didn't get clear about what I wanted. I didn't set aside a time to prep my boss that I was going to come in to ask him. Right? These are all my learned lessons. I didn't get very clear on what I was giving to the company in terms of value. I knew I was really great at my job, right? Managers would tell me. I had a standing ovation at the sales kickoff one year, and it brought me to tears, right? But I couldn't articulate it. So I want you to start doing the homework of, what is my impact? How have I made a difference for my client? What institutional knowledge do I bring to the table? Especially if you've worked in different industries or if you're straddling both worlds right now. What technical skills and educational skills, and right, you're all here today investing in yourselves. Add this to your list on your resume and in your own personal portfolio of your career development, right? This is something you are doing to invest in yourself that adds value at work. Own your soft skills of being able to handle difficult clients, on being able to manage multiple deadlines, right? Because interior designing, right, the actual design piece is just a small part of your work and your role. Am I right? There's a lot more that goes on in terms of design, project management, budgeting, right? It's basically, maybe, I don't know, what else would you call it? Project design management. There's like, it's a different function. So maybe you get clear on, what is it that I do? If you were to put yourself in a different industry, what might you be called? Lots of coordination, yes. Managing people, absolutely. See, these are the soft skills that are so powerful that, listen, from an HR perspective, companies can hire you and train you on systems. It is so much more costly for a company to hire you and train you to be a good leader, train you to manage conflict, right? This is why I have a business, because organizations are struggling with this. Yes, problem solvers, your production specialists, love it. Design professional, yeah, I like that. Communication, collaboration, multifunctional, right? You have a gift of speech, Victoria, but a fear of speaking. Ooh. Well, we'll save that one for Q&A. I want to hear more. Interrupt people's wants and needs, maybe. Oh, interpret. Yes, that like problem solving, right? You're managing people. The design is the kind of the byproduct. For me, I'm doing the same thing. I'm managing people, and more money or more opportunity is the byproduct, right, of doing this work, where it's being able to manage people. Empathizers, yeah. And when you're doing people-based work, if you're not owning your worth and grounding yourself, you are going to feel like your cup is always empty. Who feels like their cup is empty? Who feels, right, that feeling of, I'm unseen? It's Friday, thank goodness, but oh my goodness, that means Monday's coming. Right? Yeah, the people person. So here are some other questions. Invisible. Well, today's a new day. I feel you. I know how uncomfortable that feeling is. I promise you it can change. It can shift. And you're doing it by being here. And I want to give you this other tool. So in terms of articulating your value, amateur psychologist. Yes, great one, Renee. Right, I'm sure. So I experienced, I had my first son during the pandemic. And not long after that, our dryer caught on fire in our condo in Boston. And we were out of our home for like 9 months, and it became a construction site and a construction project. So I can only imagine what you deal with from the client perspective, because I was somebody that didn't want to be in that position, didn't know what I was doing, and had to answer all of these questions under a large amount of stress. So you are definitely very talented to be able to pull insights. So I invite you to stop for a second and pick one of these questions to answer for yourself. I'd love for you to put it in the chat, but we're going to use it for the next section here, which is, I'm going to actually give you a script on how you can articulate your value from a business case perspective. Because what I want you to do is not only leave here feeling emotionally more sound and stable and grounded and worthy, but I want you to have some practical tools you can put into place at work. But folks, this does require you to manage your career. It does require you to make space to think about yourself. So, what are you most proud of achieving in the last 3 months? Or how has your contribution made someone else's life or job easier? Take a moment, jot that down for yourself. If you'd love to share it, I would love to see. And if you want, grab a picture of this slide, because I'm going to move you on to the next portion of this, which is filling out a script on how you can articulate your value. Victoria, you're most proud of passing your term last semester and entering into your last one. Congrats. Yay. So this was what was missing from my big failed negotiation. It was too emotional for me that I didn't take the time to sit down and answer this question, which I invite you to do at the end of every week. Your Friday forums, create little, I don't know if you get together, if you have a peer-to-peer group, that's something that I help a lot of organizations with as well. Like, how do we apply these practices outside of today's session? But once a week, do this for yourself based on your week. And if you don't know, folks, it's okay to ask. I have my clients ask around to people that they trust, like, what are the top 3 attributes you see in me? What makes it easy for you to work with me? So this script is going to be your go-to way to help you ground yourself in your value. When you manage your emotions and understand how fear might be holding you back, you can, and this is most of the work that I do with my clients, it's the emotional side of it. It's how do you bring yourself back to your center? How do you get clear on what you want? How do you move from feeling stuck to being courageous enough to take action? And this is step 2, defining your wants, your goals, and what you bring to the table. Yes, serious journaling. Do it. It's so helpful. So thanks to your ability or your strength in X, you're able to secure, change, or achieve Y, which has helped your client, your company, your business by what? And the cheat sheet here is, how do you make or save money for a company? What kind of people management are you doing? What processes do you impact? So good question, Jill. I'll come back to that in a second. Alicia, you're helping get a behavioral health hospital completed so it can open to new patients. Amazing. Right, and I'm sure if you're managing the timeline, right, so it doesn't go over budget or gets open on time, that's a very great business case. So that was going to be my question to you, Jill, is how many of you have regular meetings with a boss, a manager? Like, are you getting continuous feedback at your company? Are you giving continuous feedback to your employees? No. So if you don't, which is the case, okay. So this is what an opportunity, right, for you to think about, you know what, how do I show up and do this first, so that way then I can do it with my boss. So if you're a manager, right? Yeah, they're not listening. Okay, so let's just say you want to raise or promotion in the next 6 months. Start having these conversations now. You start doing your homework now, but this is about you continuously grounding yourself in your value. So that way, when the time comes for you to make an ask, you're prepared. But if you're not having continuous feedback discussions with your boss, ask. Hey, can we put on a bi-weekly meeting where we just chat through my projects, what's happening, what I've accomplished, how you can help me prioritize? and give that same space to your people. Like, I know it's busy. I know it's busy, but this is truly what not only retains great talent, but also what helps you feel recognized in your work. Meeting once a year, right? It's pretty much useless. So I would recommend saying, dear boss, I've been doing some homework. I really enjoy working here. I want to see how I can continue to grow and develop in my career. Can we put regular development discussions on the calendar? Would you be open to that? Jill, do you want to give me an example? So this is where we're going next, right? Confidence is built by taking courageous action. So being curious, knowing that no is not the end, and getting more information. So if you don't feel like you have the opportunity to self-promote, because prioritization of tasks, yes, like there's the part about getting the job done, but are you taking the opportunity at the end of every project to sit down with your boss and review it? Are you saying, hey, boss, I'd love to take the opportunity to go through this. I have some feedback. These are the wins. This is what I feel like went really well. This is what I'd like to do better. Can I get your input? You can just even do this over email regularly. Yeah, the casual feedback, right? So it's about just finding the language with your boss. You know your boss best, right? So does this need to be a face-to-face meeting, or can it be a Friday email update? Like, hey, boss, these are the 5 things I worked on this week. This is what changed. These are the wins that I've had, right? Again, this is not, we're starting from scratch. We don't have this structure in place in a lot of organizations. So you got to test it out. But waiting for a review, right, isn't going to be effective. So test it out with your boss and say, hey, I've decided that I'm going to try to give you Friday updates to help me track my wins, to help me track my development, so I can be sure that I'm adding great value here. You think about the win-win. By you self-promoting, you're making your boss's job easier to remember how amazing you are. There's so much on our plate. So yes, it's amazing if you do have a great boss. Please celebrate them. But we are the future of leadership, right? We're learning how to be better bosses because typically, right, the generation before us, it's different. These are not the skills that we're taught or are learning. So remember that even if you're self-promoting, even if you make an ask, even if you're not getting the information you really need, no is not the end. Had I followed up with my boss to say, hey, I hear you saying no to me right now, but what else could I do? Or can we talk about it at a different time? Or is there anything else you need to see from me and my development that would make you change your mind? Had I had those conversations, who knows where I'd be? I wouldn't be here probably, but that wasn't meant to be anyway. So, right, like you having this clarity to be able to separate fear, to be able to own your worth, right, is going to get you into this place where you can be more curious. If not now, then when? And look, leading with courage is all about vulnerability. Jill, why not go to your boss and say, hey, boss, I really feel like I've had no opportunity to celebrate, to self-promote, to toot my own horn, to pause and just recognize the amount of work we've all been doing together. Can we set up a space to do that? It would really help me feel seen and valued at work, and I really love working here. If you were a boss and somebody said that to you, how would you react? Jill, we'll come back to your questions. I want to finish up here for a second and we'll come back to your questions. And if it's not your boss, then his peers, the same thing. Set up a meeting, make it a little informal. So to recap on our framework before I do Q&A, and I have a special gift I want to share with you and for an ask of giving me some feedback today, because this has really been helpful and I love your engagement. But to recap on the framework before we have Q&A, you have to own your worth, own your impact, and lead with courage. The inside job of self-advocating is so crucial because we're navigating so many what ifs, hows, whens, whys. But I'm going to tell you, there's no right or wrong time. If you're prepared, then go for it. Start testing the waters, but do your homework first and then reach out to folks. Because you have to get more comfortable being uncomfortable in these situations. You have to also be clear on what you want. If you are going to start practicing self-promotion, why? Where are you going with your career? So that way, if someone's saying, oh, what is this all of a sudden? You can say, yeah, I'm looking to grow. I'm trying to be a better advocate for myself and my team. So I'm practicing it, right? If we can all normalize these habits, then it's so much easier to advocate with boundaries. So before we close with Q&A, it would mean so much to me if you could share 2 minutes. Maybe we can play some music, Sammy, even 1 minute to provide me with some feedback. And in exchange for your feedback, which will help me continue to grow and learn, I'm going to share a gift with you, my quiz on how to own your worth, where you're going to get a nice report on where you are in your journey to owning your worth and self-advocacy. I would really appreciate it if you could share, and feel free to pop done. So Sammy, pop the link. You can either do this on your phone or you can click the link in the chat and do it on your computer. It will take 1 minute. And when you're done, if you just put done in the chat, then I will know and we can begin the Q&A. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. I'm happy to stay on later too, to do Q&A. So if you want to pop done in the chat and put in Q&A, I'm here for you. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Lauren and Bethany. I really do appreciate it. See, hey, thank you, Lauren, Tyler, appreciate it. Jill, Lexi, thank you. Tyler, Corinne, Catherine, Cassie, yay. Thank you guys. Jessica, thank you, Christina. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Miranda. So thank you, thank you. And what is your next step? Where do you want to begin this journey to move the needle and being more confident to self-advocate? Are you going to own your worth? Pop a 1 in the chat. Thank you, Miranda. Quiz won't work. I'll pop in a new link at the bottom. Articulate your impact or lead with courage. 2, articulate your impact. Nice. 1, own your worth. Oh, 2, okay, lead with courage. Yes, own your worth overall. I love it. All right. What questions do you have? Jill, remind me of your question about the peers. And Miranda, number 2, Alicia, 2, articulating your impact. Right, that is the hardest part because we don't have those skills or that language. Right, we're taught again to be people pleasers or kind, which is great, but it doesn't always translate to business and self-advocacy about promoting. 2. Thank you, Stephanie. No, it's okay. No apologies needed. This is... So when is the right time to promote to peers or your boss? Thank you. Thank you, Bree. So when is it right to promote to peers of your boss? My boss has said I should self-promote more, but how and when? Ah, I see. Okay. So that's great. So I'm going to push back on your boss. Jill, I don't know what your relationship is with your boss, but if you have a good enough relationship, then I would say, dear boss, can you help me? Can you help me self-promote with your peers? Because if your boss is at this level and he's saying, yes, promote yourself and just do it, he may, I'm assuming it's a he, maybe it's a she. So they may say, go ahead and do it, because they might not understand that it feels like a big deal. So ask your boss for help. Hey, do you have a good time? Is this now a good time? Can you put in a good word for me? How would you say it? So workshop this with your boss. Your boss is meant to be your advocate and on your side. If they're not, right, it's going to be really hard for you to navigate your career. So consider adding, if you're going to do that Friday update, I would consider adding, like, CCing the person that you work with. So if there's a peer, when do you work with them? When do you see them? Do you not really work with them? And if not, then you're going to need your boss's support to make that inroad, to make it a little bit more comfortable, so you don't feel like it's this big risk to self-promote out of the blue. But you can also be vulnerable and have a coffee chat and say, hey, I'm looking to grow this year. I'm working on my personal development. I had a session with a coach, and I would like to sit down with you today to get your feedback on things that are working really well. And I'd love to share with you some of the things I'm really proud of this quarter. Can we do that? It's about making that time and that effort. And if it's uncomfortable, that's okay. Just try and workshop it out. I'll stop sharing here for a minute so I can see everyone's faces. Hey, there's a group. Tracy, are you all in a room together? Hello. Hi. It's nice to see you. Yes, thank you, Sammy, for putting that there. If you have to go ahead. But how to self-promote when HR has become the gatekeeper. So the gatekeeper to getting you like a performance review or a raise, a promotion. Yeah, that's a tough one. Again, you're going to have to push back on HR and or your manager, but I'm assuming HR is saying, like, there's not enough time, or it's not a good time right now, or there's not money in the budget. Is that the case? Is that the pushback you're getting? Yeah, so those questions like, well, if not now, then when? When would be a good time to discuss this? Or another one is, what else do you need to see from me before you're able and willing to do X? Another one is just like, help me understand. So if you wanted to get a promotion, it's, what's the job description? What's the requirements? What's the salary range? What's the pay structure for somebody at this level? So if they're only asking for you to prove it more, then it feels like I'm having to keep doing more and more, and the bar keeps getting pushed away. Can I sit down and create a plan? Is there a structure? Can you give me more concrete goals to work towards that would help me get to this next level? And really asking, in order for me to be here, what do I need to do? And then for you personally, if they're not able to give you that, if they're unwilling, then it becomes, what's right for you next? So sometimes we end up leaving organizations or places too soon, but ask until you hear no multiple times. And ask your boss too, like, hey, it seems like this is going to go on forever. What do you recommend I do here, boss? And think outside the box. If you want a promotion, then, and they can't give it to you, maybe it's, can I get funding for coaching? Can I get some more training? Can I get involved in the organization in a different way? Like, think about for your own career growth what you want. Yes, the presentation will be shared. What are the questions do we have, folks? I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes. Thank you so much. Yeah, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I continue the conversation there. It always seems like we could have a 3-hour discussion on this topic because it's really important. But it was such a pleasure to be with you today and to spend time with you. Thank you again to Christina and Megan for organizing and having me. And I think I'll put the free quiz gift for you in the chat right now because I think Jill mentioned it might not work. So let me put that in here before you go. But any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself. This is the highlight of my day.
I'm going to go
again.
ahead and share maybe.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And just say thank you, Ashley, so much. I don't know if everybody else is like me, you have so much journaling you want to do and so much self-exploration. I think that's what I plan to do. So hopefully everybody else feels empowered to do that. So I want to say thank you to Ashley and thank you for all the people that helped put this together. And, again, you're going to get your IDCEC credit. So here's that magical QR code, even larger now, if you guys want to go ahead and scan that. And like Ashley said, if you have any other questions or anything, let us know. We're here.
Yes. Thank you, Christina. And I see a couple of questions in here about pay. So recently wrote a job description for myself for a promotion. You're struggling with how to approach the money side of it. So it's really important that you're paid fairly and competitively for the role you are doing. If you are executing at X level, but you don't have the final education or you don't have this experience, but you're doing the job, then that's what counts, right? We should be paid for our contribution. And then you can get paid more if you have all the credentials, if you have extra experience, right? So, I mean, salary.com, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, I would be wary of for salary data. I would call a recruiter. So get on the phone with recruiters, folks. Don't be afraid of recruiters. It doesn't mean you have to use one, but ask them what they're seeing in the marketplace for somebody with 6 years of experience. Ask them what the salary ranges are, because look, you're in an industry. The interior design industry is $130+ billion industry, right? And you can share your salaries with each other. We have to become more comfortable being this uncomfortable about, hey, I have 5 years experience, this degree or not degree. What are you making? I want to understand what the fair ask is of my employer. And look, you can also leverage HR in this way too. Hey, HR, can you tell me what the salary band is for somebody at this level? For somebody like me with this amount of experience? Right, part of this is holding our employers accountable to giving us this information. So, look, pay and worth, it's what we say yes to. If you want to make $100,000, $1 million, you're worth it. But it's how do you prove the value? What would you be comfortable with? And using that market research through asking recruiters what they're seeing, doing research on LinkedIn, sharing salary with each other. This is how we normalize these discussions. Right, and from out of school, you could be starting anywhere, I would assume like 50 to 75,000 as a starting salary, and then upwards right from there. And it depends on what industry you're in. Miranda, you just took the quiz and it's accurate. Great. I hope it provides you some new framework, right, to apply the worthiness, impact, and courage. And if you want to share, Miranda, which one are you? Are you the what's your name in terms of your worth? Yeah. You need to share the CEU code again. Okay. Any other questions? This is really great, folks. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, message me on LinkedIn. Happy to keep the conversation going. Welcome you to the Own Your Worth community. However I can support you. I have tons of resources and workbooks available to help you get clear on where you want to go and how to have these hard conversations. And remember, it's not your fault if it feels uncomfortable, but there is something you can do. So remember, you're worthy, you are supported, you don't have to go this alone. And brilliant beginner, yay! There it is. So you've all taken the first step today to owning your worth and advocating with confidence. It was my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you all again. I look forward to continuing these conversations. And please, if you have one takeaway, if you're still here and want to pop in one takeaway, or what's your biggest takeaway, I'd appreciate it. And this is also for you to ground it. Like, thank yourself for showing up. Take this takeaway and use your weekend this weekend to do the journaling, to do your homework, to come up with that script. So that way, next week at work, you start looking at the people around you, your clients, right, and your contribution in a way that's like, damn, I am doing a lot of hard work here. Maybe you don't know what you want yet, but start tracking it. Thank you. I hope I see the sun soon too. You're welcome, folks. I'll see you soon.